Let's talk about 7 things that should be different in college football 26. We have just about 3 months before we get college football 26, man. I am hyped. I'm excited, man. Like, comment, subscribe, check out the ebook down below. Let's get into it. So the first thing I think we will see different, and we should see different for college football 26, is this coaching system, this coaching carousel. It's not bad. For it being the first year back in about 10 years, it's good enough, but it definitely has some flaws. And I wish it just get a little bit more detailed to the point where like you could hire like a strength coach. You could hire even, some position coaches. I understand everyone might not want that. Everyone don't want to spend the time to hire all them coaches every single year. But I think about it like this, man. If you're able to hire a strength coach and maybe you hire a certain strength coach where your O-linemen actually get bigger over the years. You have freshman O-linemen and they would never change in weight. You have linebackers, that come in maybe small and they'll never get stronger. So I think if you had, actually a weightlifting coach that you could choose, you could pick in between, that could be a fun aspect that we currently do not have in Dynasty at all. And then also same thing with the position coaches, man. Instead of having, motivator for, each position with your head coach, maybe it's some way you have it for your D-back coach or, your O-line coach, somewhere in that realm. I think it could work out, and I think it could be fun. And maybe you do it like this: have your offense and defensive coordinators, and then you could hire 2 position coaches, and maybe you hire for your defense, you hire 2 position coaches for your defense, 2 position coaches for your offense, and those positions that you decide to hire that coach at get a bonus, an extra boost. So for offense, let's say I hire a quarterback coach and then an O-line coach, and now those 2 positions will get a little bit of an extra boost, all-season training, and then also just development. Something along them lines I think could be fun. Adding the weight training coach, I think that also would be cool. Or if they don't want to go that far, I completely understand that. But at least change these coach abilities some way, somehow. And, for example, like the tactician scheme guru, the elite version of it, it's like a little bit too specific for me. Like I never use this because it's a little bit too specific. I feel like some of this stuff is not very good. Like the strategist, it's okay, but if you're a guy that never do visits like me, or I do visits but just rarely, this is like useless for you, man. I never go into strategists for any of my coach builds, so I just feel like some of this stuff is not the most valuable. Same thing with the program builder and the CEO. Is some stuff in here that you could just live without ever having, to be honest. So I hope they change the coach carousel a little bit and we see something a little different. Bare minimum, it should be some coachability where you could have an impact on player progression, and more so like what a player develops, how a player use their skill points. If you have a quarterback, a scrambling quarterback, have a coachability where I can have an influence on them where they just focus on upgrading, instead of their speed, because that's what they do oftentimes, maybe they focus on their accuracy, man. Because currently in the game, there's no way to, have a player focus on what you actually want them to get better at. In real life, you'll tell a player, hey, you're not good at throwing the ball. Get better at throwing the ball. Instead of, during off season, he's just running sprints, getting faster. And that's what you see sometimes in this game, man. Players getting better at things that we don't really need them to be better at. So the next thing I hope they change for next year is the way scouting actually works, man. I think scouting is a little bit too easy. Like, it's way too easy to identify when you have a great player or when you just have, a player that's not going to be that good. The whole gym bus system, I get why it's in the game. It was in the game before. But personally, I just don't love the system. And then also, I don't love how you're able to see every single player attributes, like all the attributes that matter the most, without having, I feel like if that's the case, you need to have a coach ability that allows you to see their actual ratings. I feel like the base level, you should just see a grade, His finesse moves right here is a 88. Instead, we should just see B, maybe B plus, somewhere in that ballpark. Instead of just seeing 88, we're able to see every single stat, and then have the coachability allow you to actually see their actual attributes, man. That's adding more layers to the entire dynasty. Because just in real life, you're not able to see that this guy, you're able to see he's good at rushing the passer, but you're not able to see he got an 88 finesse move. That's just not how it really works in real life when you're scouting a high school player. You don't really know what you get. And the same thing with the whole gym bus. With this, if you get a 5-star gym or, any gym in general, you pretty much know they're going to be a pretty good player. And, that's not always the case in college football or in high school football when you're recruiting high school guys. There's so many times that these guys are actually gems, but they turn out to be a bust for whatever reason or another. So I just don't love the whole gem bust system. I see why it's in a game. Do I think they're going to take it out? I don't know. But I do think like they should definitely remove like where we can see the actual ratings until we get them on campus, man. Let us, just be able to see the grades, something along the lines. And I feel like also being able to see the abilities is kind of crazy. Like just from scouting the high school guy, like I see all his abilities. I feel like that's, his abilities, his ratings. I can damn near see everything, man. I damn near could see his overall at this point. So I just hope they incorporate more coach abilities into scouting, where so you got to upgrade your coach and be a master scout for you to be able to see maybe their abilities, mental, physical, then also their attributes. I think that would be cool. I also think they'll make national rank matter because right now it does not matter in this game. I think that's unfortunate, man. Max Plays did his test on this a while back, but with his test, he figured out that national rank for high school recruits actually mean nothing. And I think that's unfortunate, man. In real life, it means a lot, but in the game, it don't really mean anything. During the transfer portal is everything. National rank is all by overall. So you see the number one player in the transfer portal, by national rank, he has the highest overall. You see the lowest national rank player, he got the lowest overall. So transfer portal, it matters. High school recruiting, not so much. So the next thing that shouldn't be in college football 26 is this award system. And also even like the ranking system, man, just not accurate. Not accurate at all, man. Sometimes you got guys winning the Heisman stat line. Not impressive. Not impressive at all, man. And also you have guys win awards. That stat line is underwhelming. And a lot of times they win the award because they just have a high overall, but they didn't have, a great season. And it'll be a couple players with better seasons than them. And, that player not even on the award list, especially with wide receiver. I noticed that, man. So it seemed like the awards are more given to players with higher overall rather than the players that put up the best stats. And same thing when it comes to players getting drafted. I feel like we got to do something about that. Like I had a guy in my Temple series before we did the death penalty. He was the greatest receiver in college football. Maybe that's an exaggeration. But his time while he was starting, he was the greatest receiver for his 3 years starting. Maybe not the greatest ever, but his 3 years starting, he was the number one receiver in the league. Best yards, catches, touchdowns, everything, and he did not get drafted at like an 85 overall. And I disagree with that, man. I disagree with that. And that goes on to my next point of like skill caps being maxed out for players that's, well performing their actual, overall skill caps. I feel like it should be some way to unlock skill caps via winning an award, something in that realm. Like you shouldn't just be stuck at your overall. If you're outperforming your skill caps, I feel like it should be a way for that to go up, whether it's a coach ability, and it is a coach ability, but it's not correlated to actual production. It's correlated to just random number generated, man. RNG is literally the only way for skill caps to really be unlocked in this game right now. And I feel like that's not right because sometimes you'll have a great player put up crazy numbers and that'll be a 72 overall because that's what they stuck at. And I just don't agree with that. So the next thing that shouldn't be in college football 26 is this same exact pipeline situation, man. I think recruiting is going to be relatively similar next year. Whether you want to believe that or not, whether you like this year recruiting or not, I think it's too much to implement a whole new, brand new recruiting system. I think they'll change little aspects of it, like maybe like scouting, maybe the pipelines. But I think this base system will be similar. They probably add like more sales, whether it's more hard sales, more soft sales, more, sit in the house. They'll probably change up, this system a little bit. But I imagine it's going to be super similar. But one thing I do think should be different and needs to be different is the whole pipeline system and how it could never change from, without you upgrading your head coach. That's the only way it could change at this point, man. Upgrading your head coach. I feel like it should be dynamic pipelines, and I think we'll see that next year. Dynamic pipelines where you do rebuild, the Temple University like we did, and we don't just have a 2-tier pipeline in Philadelphia, and we win in national championships every year, and we still only have a 2-tier pipeline in Philadelphia. That makes no sense to me. The pipeline should be able to develop, go up and down, and it should, be some type of algorithm that depends on how your recruiting actually does. What players you building in what state. So they'll actually like if I want to get a Florida pipeline, okay, well, I just go recruit for the Florida players, and over time I'll develop a better Florida pipeline. Like, I feel like that's the way it should work, and I think we will see that next year. Like I said, recruiting overall probably will be super similar. I'll be surprised if it's a complete revamp in year 2 of the game being back, but I think we'll see little aspects change. Y'all let me know what y'all think down below. Next, when it comes to the different archetypes, I think we'll no longer see it being so unbalanced, man. And at this point, y'all should all know that the archetype system is super unbalanced in this game, man. And some archetypes are better than others. We'll come over here to tight end, and tight end is always the easiest example. Vertical threat tight ends never become high enough overalls to get drafted, man. They just don't. We scrolling through all the tight ends, and you see nothing but blocking and possession. Then you finally get a vertical threat at 86 overall, and that's the threshold to get drafted. But if we click on him, I'm sure he's probably maxed out and won't get much better. He is maxed out. He's maxed out at an 86 overall. Compared to, you see these blocking tight ends up to 92. Top right corner, true overall, 92, 91. Even some of the possession tight ends getting up to 88 overall. But them blocking tight ends or them vertical threat tight ends just max out super early. And there's more examples of that, man. You go over here to cornerbacks, and more consistently, you're seeing the slot corner getting higher in overall. You see a man corner here, number 2. It could happen, but most of these guys are slot corners that highest in overall. Most of these guys up here are slot corners. And you see that with a bunch of different positions, man. Hybrid safety is another easy one. They just don't develop compared to the other archetypes. And it's simple balancing issues, man. I guess they didn't want to make the hybrid safety the best safety in the game, so they kind of nerfed them. Because if hybrid safeties develop just as well as run support and zone safeties, they would be the best safeties in the game by far, because they come in the fastest and also with the best coverage ability. Right here, you got a hybrid safety with 99 speed, and also the coverage is solid across the board. So the hybrid safeties would be the best safety in the game, I guess, if they did develop evenly. Same thing with the block, or same thing with the vertical threat tight end. Probably would be the best tight end in the game if they actually develop. So maybe that's why they nerfed them. But I think next year we'll see a little bit more balancing, where it's just not as blatant as this. And I hope we do, just so, because I love a hybrid safety, but I just know they'll never get drafted. So for that reason, it's like I can't go at the hybrid safety unless I'm playing every single game I care nothing about overall. One thing I think we'll see a little bit different, or it should be, it really needs to be, is the injury and wear and tear system. And I feel like we haven't talked about this much at all. The injury situation is horrible in this game, man. And when I say horrible, like when you're playing the games, it's horrible. When you sim in, you'll actually have players get hurt. But when you're playing the games, you'll never have a player or in my experience, you'll rarely have a player get a real injury. Like, they'll get hurt for, 3 plays. They'll get some wear and tear. They'll be out for the game. But they won't get a long-term injury while you're actually playing. And I put my injury slider pretty high in a couple of my dynasties. And all that results is just more nagging injuries. More just injury timeouts. More just, oh, my arm hurt. Guy coming out with that. And you'll get that, very consistent through the game to the point where it's annoying. But I wanted it to be where I'm just getting like some, out for 4 weeks, broken arm, out for 5 weeks with this. And the injury system is just very flawed, actually. Very flawed in this game. Same thing with the wear and tear, man. It's improved. They made some tweaks to it, and it's in a better spot. But I think we'll see that system either completely remove the wear and tear, or definitely heavily nerfed to just make it actually, usable and actually make sense. Because all throughout the year, it just didn't make sense that time, man. You have guys getting hit on the first play of the game, wear and tear kicks in. It's like, that's not really wear and tear one hit out of, that's an injury at that point. It's not wear and tear if he's getting, wear and tear off one hit. The last thing I believe we'll see is a better player progression system. I kind of talked about it earlier. I think we'll have some system where you're actually able to influence how players develop. And it probably won't be like Madden, where you could go in and use every single player's skill points and upgrade what you want. But I think it'll be some system where you can have just more influence of like how a guy develops, what they use their skill points on. Do they focus on their abilities? Do they not focus? Like, I think you'll have some better influence on that next year for sure. And I don't hate the randomness of player progression. Super random. You'll advance to player progression from trainer from on position changes, and you'll have a player go up 10 overalls. If you go back on that save file, advance again, the next time that player might only go up 5 overalls. I'm not mad at that. It's random. It makes player progression actually exciting. So I'm not mad at that system. I just think we need to have more control of like where these actually what they're upgrading instead of it just being completely random, and that's how it feels. Other than that, that's all I got for y'all boys. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, man. Let me know anything I missed down below. Let me know anything that y'all think should be removed or definitely will be removed for next year game. Other than that, we on to the next one. Appreciate y'all.